Welcome to Career Step Forward. I'm Christiane Beinroth with my online consulting Azurate. Welcome. This episode is part 1 of a 3-part series called Tips and Tricks on Experiencing Relocation Grief. Now, when you move internationally, it can happen that you experience a sense of grief and loss around the relocation. You miss a place that you left, the people, culture, climate, anything like that. I lived internationally quite a few years. I'm currently back in Germany for the time being, but I had quite a few international relocations, which were overall quite positive. But in one of my relocations, I really experienced this relocation grief, this sense of that I didn't want to move, that I absolutely didn't want to be in this new place. And we will talk about this topic today and look for tips and tricks. There are quite a few things we can do. Now, 2 things I want to mention. The one thing is, it doesn't have to be that we experience a very strong sense of grief and loss. It can also be very subtle and little bit, and sometimes it even gets lost in the move. We might not even be aware of it. We might kind of be too busy and just be a little more irritable or a little depressed or no drive in us, anything like that. So let's be aware that sense of or this experience of loss can also come in very small forms, and these tips and tricks, they're just there to help. And that's the second thing. So this approach is kind of like, let's look at it like when we are sick and we kind of have a little cold, and we take some vitamins and minerals and some supplements just to boost the immune system. That's kind of how these tips and tricks are. We don't want to ignore our grieving process. We don't want to make shortcuts. We might need a certain time to go through the experience of loss and grief, but we can support this. We can build an inner strength. We can build stamina to just alleviate the symptoms of it. And that is what this is about. We want to be true to what we're going through, and it's just what it is, part of relocating, that we leave things behind, the goodbyes, and starting new. So yeah, let's own this, and I'll start off with telling you a little more about that experience I had, because I'll be the case study for tonight with my own life. And I was back in Germany. I had to move back from the east coast of the United States back to Germany, and I absolutely didn't want to move. It was not a fun situation, and I arrived in Germany. I had great people around me, great setup, a beautiful lifestyle. I had everything. I mean, if you looked from the outside, everything was great, a lot to be thankful for. But I just could not enjoy anything. I could not acknowledge that there was anything good about being in Germany, because I felt like if I acknowledge anything that is beautiful around me in this new place, I will betray myself. And the thing was, I, with every fiber of my being, wanted to be in the US. I missed it so much, and so I was not able to acknowledge anything that was beautiful, anything that was nice. I couldn't enjoy life. I was pretty down altogether. Okay, so then I was at the same time in the situation. I didn't want to live in depression and anger. I mean, just from like my head was telling me, hey, this is not good, I mean, life goes on, and, that's the thing. Often then reason comes in and we want to move on. And it was a tricky situation. Now, before I keep telling you about what actually then came up, and I will go into this in a second, I want to interject and just talk a little about grieving processes and processes, exactly. And we know from when somebody loses a loved one, we know that can be a very devastating experience. And all these grief models that we know, the Kubler-Ross or dual process model, different models are out there that are trying to describe this process that you're going through when you're experiencing grief. What I want to say is, when you lose a partner, or if you lose a parent as a child, those are very devastating experiences. And usually we don't have much stamina or strength left to kind of purposefully embrace other things. And what I see, though, when we experience relocation grief is that we have some energy and willpower left. It can be grave, but it's not as grave as a devastating loss of a partner, let's say, or a parent. So that gives us a window of opportunity, so to say. And that is actually what happened in my case. At some point, somehow, I realized I did have this kind of spark in me, this willpower, a little bit of a drive to kind of wanting to do something about this. And I realized what I was able to do, what I could do, is I could be true to my grieving process, how I feel, and that I didn't want to be there, but I could kind of slip into a different role, kind of saying, hey, I'm an adult person. I just objectively can look at life and acknowledge the good and the beautiful things that are around me. Now, I know this is getting abstract already. That's my tendency. I'm becoming a little too abstract. But so let's put an example to it. So let's say I walk through the city, beautiful old buildings, and when originally I just couldn't acknowledge that that was beautiful, now I could say, from a point of, okay, you know what? I don't want to be here in Germany. I hate it. I shouldn't be here. I don't know what went wrong. I hate life. I hate everything. But I gotta say, just from an objective point, that building is really nice. Just like from, I'm a grown-up person, just being a little fair to the world, so to say, this building is nice. Or let's say I was at a marketplace, shopping at a marketplace, seeing all the fruits and vegetables laid out there. I mean, it's beautiful, really. It's so rich and lush. And I was able to say, okay, you know what? I hate to be here. I just really don't want to be here. But I gotta admit, just to be fair, really just to be fair to this world around me, this is beautiful, how these vegetables are laid out here. And so, to take it away from my example, what I was able to do, and that's the first trick that we can use. We want to be true to the feelings that we have, the feelings of grief. But at the same time, we have some energy left there. We have some spark left in us. We have maybe some curiosity left in us. Let's use this to just kind of create a kind of like a parallel experience, or like a reasoning, using more the cognitive, and saying, let's reason a little bit. Yes, I don't feel like being here, don't want to be in this place, but I acknowledge, because I'm a mature person, I'm grown up, and I can just from an objective place acknowledge the beauty and the good around me. And doing it on purpose. And when I go through my day and I see something beautiful, I can, from my head, kind of like from reasoning, I can acknowledge it and say, hey, this is beautiful, just from a very objective viewpoint. Not because I feel like it, not because I want to be here, but let's just be objectively saying, here's a beautiful spot in the world. Or you meet a person that is nice to you. Same thing. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge that there is good around you. And what is happening when we focus on these things? We are building some inner strength. We are building some inner stamina. I like that word, stamina. That can then act, like we said, like vitamins, and just strengthen us in the experience of grief, where our feelings and emotions are down. Now, I know this concept sounds a little abstract, and please feel free to get back to me about it if I should explain it differently in a better way. But basically, this is one of the first tricks, and I will do 2 more episodes. There will be 5 more things, and those are a little more applicable, I promise. But just staying with it and saying, you know what, in using this window of opportunity we have, this little strength we have, we are experiencing grief, we are experiencing maybe even depression and anger and these feelings that are just not pleasant and that can act like a downward spiral. We are kind of just stepping aside, taking a total different role, and on purpose thinking good thoughts. And try it out, see if it helps you. If you and feel free to get back to me about it, what you think about it. It would be interesting to hear if you had experience around the topic. Now, I am a coach. I create content, and if you think, wow, I would love to have more, would like to talk more about this, I would like to have support around this topic, feel free to contact me. We can set something up and talk. But basically, here's the tip for today, and the tip on experiencing relocation grief and how we can trick ourselves a little bit and build some stamina. In the next 2 episodes, we'll go into 5 more tricks that are really applicable. I have some wonderful examples for it too. And yeah, thank you for listening and have a wonderful day.